cruelty to animals. I'm saying that if you have two very clear choices, and one of them causes environmental problems, causes global starvation, and causes cruelty to animals, and the other doesn't, there's really no trade-off there. Ethically speaking, you have to choose the thing that doesn't contribute to those things.
Couple of...
Hello? Okay. This microphone really annoys me. So, there are a couple of things. First of all, it is kind of hard, if anyone has ever actually eaten HUDs, to sort of, get stuff on your plate and then you taste and you're like, oh, maybe I don't really want to finish the stuff that's on my plate. So it's kind of hard to be wasteful sometimes. But I think, I agree with Bruce here when he says that we should be moving towards fearless dining, we should be consuming only what, or we should be taking only what we think we're going to consume. We shouldn't be wasteful in that particular instance. But I think we also should be trying to take efforts to move ourselves towards a situation where eating meat is sustainable and ethical. And I think we do that more by engaging with the industry and saying, this is how we want our preferences and how we want you to tailor your production to this particular step, as opposed to simply like abstaining from meat consumption and then they sort of just continue on the process that is going on today, maybe on a smaller scale.
Where are we? Do I have the bottom line? 30 seconds? Again, the reason I went vegan 22 years ago is just the environmental sustainability and the global poverty. We're not spending a lot of time talking about that, but the facts, intuitive and with statistics, are overwhelming. All of us are trying to be environmentalists. We're recycling. We're outraged by paper waste. If we're eating meat, we're causing 20 times the energy resource use, 14 times the water use, 25 times the land use of something else. It's just ethically indefensible. With regard to engaging the meat industry, the reality is that even on the best farms, they're doing things to animals that cause suffering that would revolt us if we had to do it personally. We shouldn't be supporting it.
Hello? Hey. My name is Bobo, and my question is for you. Can you provide me with a non-arbitrary reason for the anthropocentrism of social contract theory? Earlier you talked about cows that are massaged and fed beer, etc. So shouldn't they provide some benefit to the common good, which conveniently excludes them? But disabled people, if we massage them and feed them beer, can we then slaughter them and consume them? Is that cool?
Yeah. So when I talked about social contract theory, I think I named two reasons why I don't think animals are a part of social contract theory. Because a contract entails rights, things that we cannot do to others, or things we have to provide to others, and responsibilities. And I think fundamentally animals, because they don't reason on the same level that we do, and because they have not so far demonstrated moral judgment or the capacity for that, they cannot be parties to the social contract in the same way that we can. I said that it's actually somewhat difficult for us to argue that people who are incapacitated, who are incapable of rational action in the way you described, would be part of that social contract. And I don't think it is qualified under that. What I argued is that there are some things that we call derivative rights, whereby our own moral intuitions, the values that we determine subjectively, warrant that we don't want to treat these people in a particular way. That's why we think it would be morally repugnant for us to go around and harm coma patients or people who are incapacitated in the hospital. That's why, and we should be choosing an ethical system which conforms with our moral intuitions. We should not be choosing something that, when presented with an example like utilitarianism we talked about, it's sort of, we think about it and we say, this can't be right. There's something in this that tells me this can't be right, even though apparently it's reasoned all the way through. And that's why I think a particular social contract theory best fits our moral intuitions, and that's why I advocated it.
I guess I just
regards
see
to
a
animal rights.
non-arbitrary reason why cows get worse derivative rights than disabled people. Like, neither of them can reason on our level, neither of them can do reciprocal responsibilities in social contract theory, neither of them have speech.
Okay, like, you could argue that there are, like, because these derivative rights are socially and culturally determined, there would be different derivative rights in China than there would be in the United States.
Arbitrary.
That's arbitrary, yes, but all, like, that's how it works, and it's not arbitrary insofar as we, like, morality is subjectively determined. Unless you want to say there's God, there's no way for us to objectively determine morality aside from all of our subjective preferences being compared against one another, right? So the fact that you want objectivity and not sort of an arbitrary standard, you can't do that without appeals to religion. And I doubt if any people, especially some of the leftists in this room, are willing to concede that particular point.
Wait.
You can argue about subjective things with reason, and you can arrive at non-arbitrary reasons why some subjective preferences are better than others. I'm not asking for objective truth.
Before I came to PETA, I ran a homeless shelter and a soup kitchen in inner city Washington, D.C. for about 6 years, and part of the Catholic worker movement, and I am Roman Catholic. And I think you can. I mean, I think you don't need to include animals in social contract theory to grant that they have some interests that matter. Everybody in this room, I'm guessing, would agree that cruelty to animals is not acceptable. Everybody supports laws to punish people who abuse animals, and yet farmed animals are completely exempted from those laws. I mean, I went vegan originally for environmental and global hunger reasons, but the reason I came to work at PETA is I read Christianity and the Rights of Animals. And his argument, he explicitly rejects utilitarianism. He grants the anthropocentric view of social contract theory. He simply says, what I'm arguing from the third categorical imperative tenet, that if you believe that animals have any interests that matter, and you understand what the science says, that there's absolutely no reason to eat them, the trade-off is, do you support unnecessary cruelty that's also likely to be unhealthy, or don't you? And it seems to me that we do not. I do, though, want to point out that the science indicates that chickens and pigs are smarter than dogs and cats. Chickens have cognition that's on the level of about 1-year-old human children. Pigs have cognition levels that are on the level of about 4-year-old human children, which Cameron Diaz says, my God, it's like eating my niece. So, going to what you're saying, why don't we? Why do we say it's acceptable to do anything you want to a chicken or a pig, but not to a 1-year-old human or a 3-year-old human? Because their cognitive capacities are basically the same. On the issue of morality, there's a ton of science that indicates that animals do in fact have morality.
I think going back to the idea that these are arbitrary distinctions that we're drawing, I think it comes down, like, subjectively determined arbitrary distinctions that have no rhyme or reason to them. I think in many ways most of our moral fabric is based on arbitrary distinctions of some sort or another, that we arbitrarily decide that this is pleasurable or this is painful, or that we value this particular thing, we don't value this other thing, right? Like, that's arbitrarily determined. You can't, like, in many ways it's an emotional characteristic that is not perhaps rational, but that's what our moral intuitions are. Just because it's arbitrary does not mean that it's invalid. It means that we have to determine that if it has value to us, we should take care of it, regardless of whether or not it's arbitrarily or objectively determined.
I think we need to crack down on the back and forth a little bit, just so we can try to get through everybody, because I do have that environmentally unsustainable, hypocritical plain cash.
Hi there. Oh, sorry. My name is Nathan, and thank you all both very much for coming. So my question is about the individual choice to become a vegetarian. What I'm wondering is sort of, you spoke to, I have the power to change the environment, I have the power to reduce global hunger, and my question is sort of, by one person becoming vegetarian, do you feel that that is making an impact? It's sort of the same argument like, do I really need to vote because my state is already blue, it's already red, but I'm curious how you feel that figures into the vegetarian argument.
And I think it's a lot stronger than my state is already blue, my state is already red. I mean, for the same reason that most people in this room agree with me. I'm sorry I keep going back to it, but I think it's a powerful image. We don't throw 19 plates of pasta in the trash. Every time we choose to eat meat, we're essentially throwing 19 plates of pasta in the trash. We don't support cruelty to animals. If you're eating at KFC, the animal who had her throat slit open while she was still conscious and may have been boiled alive, and who was definitely crippled through her entire life, and that's an animal who you're paying people to do that to her. You are directly responsible for the environmental problems, you're directly responsible for causing the price of food to go up, you're directly responsible for the cruelty.
Perhaps I can extend my question. Does it make you directly responsible? For instance, someone says, I don't think I should become vegetarian because it's not really going to change the practices overall. That truck will still be shipped and maybe still have 100 chickens on it. It's sort of a marginal benefit, I guess, of one person becoming vegetarian. Is the only value in making hundreds of people become vegetarians, or?
I don't think so. I mean, Tolstoy said that vegetarianism is the taproot of humanitarianism. If we can't get it right, at the level of what we eat, if what we eat is predicated in violence and suffering. He was speaking purely about the animal component in that age before